Excuse me. A colleague from work. So, Ethan's your junior. That's abusing your position. What a scary old lady, flirting with a younger guy. That's just sad. You're totally not Ethan's type. These were the words my sister-in-law said to me during our first meeting when I visited my in-laws' house to announce our marriage. Amy must really love her brother, Ethan. But I'm so done with her obsessiveness over her brother. What's this? Gross. I paid a lot of money to get here. Why do I have to eat this peasant food? Why did Ethan choose someone like you? The meal I had worked hard on was scattered all over the floor right before my eyes. I hate people who waste food. Just ignore it. Then, my usually gentle Phil said, leave. Huh. My name is Olivia. I'm a 36-year-old office worker. For 10 years, I've been married to Ethan, my former colleague and a year younger than me. We were blessed with a child once, but we lost it. Since then, I've been scared to get pregnant again, and before I knew it, I've reached this age. Life with just the two of us isn't bad. Ethan never complained. About 6 months ago, we started living with my in-laws. The reason being, my Mill was diagnosed with terminal cancer and didn't have much time left. My Mill was very kind and treated me, her daughter-in-law, very well. After discussions and wanting to respect my MIL's wishes, Ethan and my Phil decided on home palliative care. It just so happens that we were renting a house nearby, so we moved to my in-laws' house to support my Phil and spend quality time with my Mill. I also discussed with my company and switched to part-time work. Our days were peaceful and quiet. One day, my Mill mentioned, by the way, I heard from Amy that she's coming home for the long weekend. My Mill whispered under her breath, wait, Amy. Amy is Ethan's younger sister by 4 years and my sister-in-law. And she has always disliked me even before our marriage. The first time I met her was when I visited my in-laws' house after deciding to marry Ethan. While my warm-hearted in-laws welcomed me, Amy glared at me as if I was her enemy. Back then, Amy, still a college student, said, excuse me. A colleague from work. So, Ethan's your junior. That's abusing your position. What a scary old lady, flirting with a younger guy. That's just sad. You're totally not Ethan's type. Yes, she said that to my face. I was taken aback. Having never been ridiculed like this before by someone I just met, it was as if I'd been jinxed. Trying to laugh it off, I said, Amy. Not again. Grow up and stop being so attached to your brother. Apologize to Olivia now. My Mill was furious. Apologize. Never. Amy doesn't want to call someone like her my sister-in-law. Caught in the middle of their heated argument, I was at a loss for what to do. Beside me, Ethan let out a deep sigh. I'm sorry, Olivia, really, I am. It's embarrassing having a sister like that. She's always been like this. She's always clung to me because she's never made friends due to her personality. If Ethan had been equally obsessed with his sister, I might have reconsidered this marriage. But he showed no such signs. Referring to oneself by one's own name is definitely a red flag, but I guess I can deal with it in somehow. However, I soon regretted that naive thought after our marriage. Back then, I was working full-time, so I didn't visit my in-laws often. But during New Year's and other occasions, Amy would pick on me. While helping my Mill in the kitchen, Amy would say, such plain food. It screams made by someone from the countryside, right? Well, you're from the countryside after all. It worries me that Ethan has to eat this all the time. She'll say this while laughing mockingly. To which I responded, really? Ethan always says it's delicious. You must be an amazing cook, Amy. Why not teach me some of your fancy dishes? Amy, her face turning red, blurted out, you're mean, and added, Ethan, Olivia is being mean to Amy. She ran to Ethan, crying, but he said, let me guess, you said something stupid again. If you keep bothering Olivia, I'll cut ties with you. The threat of being cut off from her beloved brother turned Amy pale. She seemed genuinely shocked and mumbled, I'm sorry. It won't happen again. Her childish apology left me dumbfounded. A while later, after graduating from college, Amy got a job out of state. But she quit after just a week and returned home. She laughed. They told me to come earlier just because Amy was 10 minutes late. They must be jealous because I'm young. Those kinds of old hags really exist. Ethan and my Mill were exasperated. Then my Phil asked, Amy, what's your plan now that you've quit? My Phil, usually a calm person, was unusually angry. Well, I'll relax at home for a while and maybe look for another job. Why do you ask? No, out of college, Amy was just an unemployed graduate. Her intent to freeload off her parents was clear, and I was taken aback. Then, my Phil sternly said, Amy, you need to leave. What was the point of going to college? We paid for your initial expenses for your new house and moving costs. Why couldn't you stick it out a bit longer? Instead of reflecting, you mock your former colleagues. Being reprimanded for tardiness is normal. In response to my FIL's undeniable logic, she said, but even so. Amy looked around, but not just my husband, even my Phil and Mill looked furious. When her eyes met mine, she said, Olivia, you understand, right? It's tough being targeted by old hags. I replied, I can imagine how hard it was for your colleagues. They were just doing their jobs, and then someone like you comes along. I told her exactly what I felt. Amy, red-faced, shouted, You're so mean. You must have turned everyone against me. Pack your things immediately. My Phil said coldly when Amy continued to make a fuss. A few days later, Amy forcefully left our family home. It's cruel to kick out your own child. I won't be there for you in your old age. My Mill was in disbelief. I'm sorry, Olivia. We didn't mean to spoil her, but she turned out this way. Having a problematic family member sure is tough. For several years, we heard nothing from Amy. She's probably doing fine somewhere, Ethan said. We, along with my in-laws, enjoyed peaceful times, going on family trips. We tried to inform Amy about my MIL's cancer diagnosis through my Phil and Ethan, but we couldn't reach her by phone, and we weren't sure if she even read the emails. I didn't expect her to help with caregiving, but as her daughter, I wished she'd at least show her face while my Mill was still well. Then, Amy came home during the long weekend. I guess she's worried about her mom after all. I was slightly pleased. However, the reason for Amy's return was unbelievable. From the front door, she exclaimed, Finally made it. It was so crowded since it's a long weekend. She stomped into the house with loud footsteps. As always, she was her usual self, but something else caught my attention. Who's that? I asked. Beside Amy stood a man, looking at me with a puzzled expression. Who is this guy? Isn't he a bit rude for a first meeting? That's my husband, Lucas. We got married last month. We were all taken aback by Amy's sudden marriage announcement. Lucas glanced at me and said, I apologize for the late introduction. I heard from Amy that she couldn't visit home due to some issues. I bet she couldn't say she was practically kicked out. I'd be embarrassed too. With those farts, I headed to the kitchen to prepare dinner. Amy followed, snacking on some food, and said, What's this? Gross. We paid a lot of money to get here. Why does Amy have to eat this peasant food? Why did Ethan choose someone like you? I was simply disappointed by her words. You never change, Amy, but at least try this beef stew. A lot of work was put into making it. I served some beef stew on a small plate and offered it to Amy. Amy smirked at my actions and said, I don't want it. I don't feel like eating this. She pushed the plate away, causing several dishes to fall and break, claiming it was an accident. In disbelief, my Mill shouted, Are you serious? Acting like a child, don't you think it's embarrassing? Fuming, Amy retorted, so noisy. I just didn't want the family to eat bad food. There's no way the food was bad. That's because this dish is. It was then. Amy, leave now, and never show your face here again. My Phil stood there with the same cold eyes as before. Standing beside him were an angry Ethan and a confused Lucas. But, I just got here. Do you know how long it took? Amy's voice wavered. My Phil responded, You came here of your own free will. Lucas, trying to defend Amy, said, There's no need to be so harsh. Did Olivia bully Amy again? What did he just say? Amy, seizing the opportunity, said, Yes, it's her fault that I was kicked out of this house. She tried to feed me dishes that isn't good on purpose. That's why I accidentally knocked them over. That's not a valid excuse. I was speechless at Amy's blatant lies. Then, from the back of the room, "I'm sorry for serving you such terrible food." My Mill, who was battling cancer, slowly walked over and said, "What?" I added, "Despite her condition, your mother spent hours making your favorite beef stew, taking breaks because standing for too long is hard for her. And you did this." Tears welled up in my eyes. "What's going on? You look very weak." Lucas seemed to be unaware of my MIL's condition, so Ethan calmly explained, "Our mother has been diagnosed with terminal cancer and is receiving palliative care at home. We've tried to contact that foolish sister multiple times, but she never responded. And when she finally shows up, this happens. All the stories about my wife bullying her are lies. I'm sorry, but can you please take her and leave?" Amy, trying to defend herself, said, "Ethan, you're always on her side. Even after 10 years of marriage, you don't have kids. See, she's a fake. The thing about the cooking was just a little joke. I just wanted to play a little prank. It's not Amy's fault." Amy had a look of regret on her face, while her husband, Lucas, looked stern and coldly stared at her. "What's going on? You told me Olivia had been bullying you all this time. This is nothing like what I heard. And this is the first time I'm hearing about your mother's illness." Amy's eyes darted around, searching for an excuse. "Bullying. Amy has always been overly fond of her brother, Ethan. The first time we met, as soon as she found out Ethan was my junior at work, she accused me of being a power-tripping senior. Ever since then, she's disliked me. But I'm an adult and haven't really let it bother me." I chuckled, and Amy's face turned beet red. "I'm sorry for her behavior, Olivia. I believed every word she said. Amy, I'm leaving first. I need some time alone to think about our future. Though, I think I already know the answer." Lucas said this and left after apologizing profusely. Left alone, Amy said, "If we get divorced, it's all your fault. Getting divorced so soon, I might even have to pay alimony. I just came here to discuss mother's inheritance." She broke down crying after dropping that bombshell. It was ridiculous to discuss inheritance with the person in question right there. Every action and word from Amy was just too unbelievable for any human being. "Amy, I have one last request. I don't want you at my funeral. And if you ever bother your father, Ethan, or Olivia, I'll never forgive you, and I'll haunt you for the rest of your life." Spat my frail Mill, out of breath and glaring at Amy. Amy, without a word, left the house with the same loud footsteps as when she arrived. The following month, Lucas visited our home. Or rather, Amy's ex-husband, Lucas. They had a lot of disputes after that incident, but they finally got divorced. They met at a singles event, and Amy had pretended to be a modest and feminine woman. Lucas was attracted to this version of her and decided to marry her. She claimed to be good at cooking, but it was evident she just bought pre-made meals. Lucas also had issues with Amy quitting her job without telling him. Eventually, he discovered that Amy had been dipping into his savings even before they were married. Apparently, she had spent a fair amount. When he consulted a lawyer, she quickly agreed to a divorce. It was clear she was a piece of work. Amy went into debt trying to repay Lucas in full and then disappeared. My Phil, hearing this, apologized over and over again, but Lucas said, "Please don't. I just came to apologize for the other day and to inform you about the divorce. And here, it's a local delicacy from my hometown. Please enjoy it." Lucas said this with a smile and left. I genuinely felt relieved that he was free from Amy. After that, we weren't particularly interested in Amy's whereabouts, but we unexpectedly found out about it. On my way back from a company training in another state, I saw a homeless person over there. I looked to where my colleague pointed to and saw a woman begging in ragged clothes. It was unmistakably Amy. Since then, no one in our family has seen her, and no one has ever mentioned her. Just because your family doesn't mean you can be selfish. My MIL's health had its ups and downs, and on a chilly autumn day, she peacefully passed away. Thanks to you, Olivia, I could spend my last days at home. I can't thank you enough. I'm so grateful Ethan married you. Both the men in this house are crybabies, so if they get too down after I'm gone, you'll have to set them straight." As she said this jokingly, I couldn't stop the tears from flowing. As my mother-in-law expected, they cried all through the funeral, and I said to them, "Look, Katsuya, father, too. Please smile. I think she would be happier that way." Even so, my eyes were red from crying. After my Mill passed away, my Phil said, "This house is too big for one person." Holding on to precious memories in his heart, he quickly moved to a place where my Mill loved and they used to travel to every year before she fell ill. He seems to have made friends there and regularly updates us on his well-being, which puts our minds at ease. My husband and I are both working hard, having rented a new place for ourselves. There's been a change in my feelings. I want to try for a child one more time. My husband, sensing my nervousness, held me tightly. I believe that no matter what challenges come, we can overcome them together. With that thought, I cherish these peaceful moments and plan to do so forever.